Hi everyone, thank you for hanging on. Sorry, we just had a little technical difficulty, but we're all good to go now. Can everybody hear and see okay? Yep, brilliant. Thanks, David. So we'll get started. I'll just introduce very quickly who we are and why we're here. So I'm Kiki. I work for Mentor Morn on the Smart Towns Wales project. So as most of you probably know, this is a Welsh Government project aimed at raising awareness of smart towns technologies across Wales to help regenerate high streets. And today we've got Mark Stanley from Thingitude. So really excited to have Mark here. He's doing some really exciting stuff with a personal safety app, which he'll tell you about now. And it's just a really great opportunity to hear something with a real kind of human interest with smart towns. So I will pass you on to Mark. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Kiki. Hello, everyone. Yeah, sorry about the delay. That's entirely my fault. I'm Mark Stanley from Thingitude. We work mostly with the public sector, helping them learn about the potential of IoT and then actually realise it. And our particular interest is where we can help improve people's quality of life, and that's really what this talk covers. So as you can see, we're quite a small team. We're a bit smaller than this now, actually. But we like to focus on real and pressing problems that address or appeal to an identity of people, and something that we can actually use smart technology to fix or significantly improve. So I'm going to, as a bit of background, I live in Berkshire, in England, and in 2018 I was working with the councils of Berkshire, and we deployed a LoRaWAN network across the county. The councils got some LEP funding, some local growth funding, and with some of that money they set up innovation challenges. One of those challenges was from West Berkshire Council, and that was about trying to stop old people falling over in their homes. I put together a bid with a couple of other partners, and luckily we won that. So that gave us then £100,000 to deliver this falls prevention system. And as part of that, I was able to hire Tracy. Now, Tracy was 19 years old. She just finished her A-levels, and she was taking a year out before joining university. So she came and worked with me, and we were working on the falls prevention system. And then Reading Council put up another challenge, and it was a much more open-ended challenge around, making use of the IoT network that they've got to improve the lives of people in Reading. And I really liked the idea of getting another £100,000 funding. And we put our heads together to try and come up with some ideas. And Tracy suggested that we did something around student safety. She then told me about her time. So Tracy was from Italy. She moved to Reading to go to college there, and she was telling me about how she didn't know her way around the town. She would go out at night. The stories about getting the banter from lads, and how joyous that is for everybody, getting approached by creepy guys, not knowing her way around the town, and having to really ask her brother to walk her home so she felt safe, because she was just worried about being in Reading. Now, Reading's not a particularly dangerous place to be, but she sort of told me about this, as her experience, and so we wondered whether there was anything we could do. I was a little bit skeptical because I've been involved in IoT for quite a while, haven't come across a creepy guy sensor, which is what we really need. But also, what would I know about women's student safety? So I'm a big believer in trying to co-design solutions with with members of the community who are actually affected and who are going to use it. And obviously Tracy's experience is important in this, but she's just one person. So I suggested that before we put a bid together, we actually establish whether it was a real problem or not. So I got Tracy to survey the students at the university and do some more research together. And this is some of the things we found. So in 2019, there were 2,000 reported incidents in the town centre. And this is categorised as of a violent or sexual nature. So I'm just going to reiterate, Reading is really quite a safe place to live. So this is, this is representative of a lot of places. We know that women in particular are reporting less than 5% of incidents to the police. So we don't know what the true number of incidents they experience are. We did find, or Tracy found, that on Facebook at Reading University, there was a group set up so that women could pair up to walk home together at night. And that's got a membership of 3,000 women in it. So that was a good clue that, it really is perceived as a problem. And Tracy then went on to do, more surveys with the women to get a bit more detail for our case. We also recognised it isn't just Reading. Across the UK, more than half of UK students, that half, being mostly women students, have faced unwanted sexual behaviour. And we know there's a lot of students. In Reading, there's about 9,000 in the UK, 1.2 million and more worldwide. So we felt we had something that was worth pitching then to the council. So we came up with the name MyWay, and we put a bid together, and luckily we won. So that was very exciting. It meant that we had a project. I should say one of the things that helped us was a letter of support from the university and the students' union there to say that were we successful, they would allow us to trial the application at the university. Which was really important for us. So we then have to engage with the students. So luckily Tracy's survey had given us permission to speak to more students. The student union were able to help us get more students to work together. And I suppose we really had to get to the nuts and bolts of what do 18, 19, 20-year-old women students worry about when they're out at night. 18, 19, 20-year-old women students aren't going to talk to me about that in an honest, open way. And that's something, I'm just not relatable enough to them for that. Tracy is obviously much closer in age, but she's not a designer. So we hired Millie. Millie was 21 years old at the time. I'd known her a couple of years earlier when she was an apprentice designer at Digital Catapult. And so we hired her to lead the design process, this co-design process. Tracy helped out as well, and then I was tucked away in the background. And what you can see on these next things is some of the output from the design sessions we ran with students. So this was a series of user interviews, one-on-one things, and then some group workshops to actually try and design an app and try and make sure that it was relevant to women students, because we wanted them to actually use it. Students are very quick to discard apps that just don't work for them. So we really needed to make sure that this was going to be something useful. And one of the post-its that came through here that I really liked was about informing but not terrifying the students. And this was a problem that they'd experienced in the Facebook group, is that actually it became a bit of a pit of doom of all the bad things that happened, and people were actually more frightened to go out than they necessarily needed to be. So we were keen that the information we put on the app would be relevant to the users, relevant to them, and not overwhelm them with too much bad news. So we built up a good rapport with the students, and with the council supporting us as well. They gave me permission to install sensors on 120 streets in Reading. So that covers the town centre, covers the university area, and where the students all live, or where most of the students live. So it gave us a good area to cover. Those sensors were giving us information on light levels and how busy the particular road was, so the amount of people movement going on. And we had some experimental sensors that were actually trying to listen to the street and try and get some sort of sentiment, if you like, as to whether it was a happy street or an angry street. So that was what the sensors did for us. But then obviously that's only, as I said, there's no such thing as a creepy guy sensor. So we needed then to add some extra data. So we had bus data, so we could give people bus routes home. We had the sensor data, and then we had crowdsourced data. So this is from the students themselves. So when they're out at night, if they see anything they don't like, and that could be a fight, that could be a guy approaching women, they can report that on the app, and then the app tells everybody else about it, and so people know where to avoid. And you can see, sorry, I'm looking over here because I'm on the second screen. You can see on the right hand side what that app's like. You've got a route that will show you how to get from A to B. We've got people, numbers of people on a street, so you can pick a way home. And I'll do a better demonstration of that, hopefully, at the end of this session. So we were pretty much set to go then for the trial, and then obviously COVID happened, which happened. Well, I'm sure you all remember it. It wasn't very good for us. Timing was awful because the night economy disappeared and the students disappeared. So we didn't have anyone to keep safe with our trial. So what that did allow us to do, however, was to deploy the sensors on the street, because there was no one around to stop us. And so me and Mike in fluorescent jackets were out climbing lampposts through the first bit of lockdown. And then in October of 2020, we were able then September, October, the next academic year, we launched the MyWay trial then, which was great for 3 weeks. And then there was a second lockdown. So again, all the students were locked away and nobody was going out. So that was a frustrating time. But one of the things that I thought we could do with the data from the street sensors was actually start building a data set of open data. And we use something called the Urban Data Exchange, which is a platform for sharing city and town data. And so we publish our data to that because I thought it was an interesting data set around, how effective lockdown was, how people moved in and out of town and different areas. So we built up a good data set around that. But then eventually lockdowns lifted, and then in 2021 we were able to properly launch MyWay. We'd learnt even from that 3-week trial, we'd learnt some things about the app. So we'd learnt some of the things that people liked. People were particularly keen. There's an SMS feature on the app, so that when you get home after a night out, it will automatically text your mum to say you got home safely. People particularly like that. There were some performance issues with the app that we had to tidy up, and some things that people just didn't understand. So that first prototype, even though it was just 3 weeks, we learned quite a lot about what we needed to change. The big question I had that we couldn't answer was, will students keep using it? Because it only ran for 3 weeks before there was a second lockdown, and that was my big concern, is that we could impress students with the idea of a safety app, and they'd like the idea of it, and they might use it once or twice, but then they'd stop using it, in which case it wasn't really delivering enough value. So we had to wait until the following, this academic year of 21 to do the full trial. And that, I'm pleased to say, gave us some very nice results back. So we got real feedback from students about feeling more safe, and some of the older students as well, pointing out that this, certainly the map side of things and the directions, is really useful in your first year when you're new to the town and you don't know your way around the town. So that was all very encouraging. And I don't know if you remember, but one of the other things that happened in 21, 22 was there was a big increase in drink spiking reports. So that was something that the students asked us then if we could add to the app, so that students would be able to report drink spiking on the app to warn each other away from the dodgier venues. And we were thinking we'd build a heat map up of the town, showing which areas to avoid, and then use that to sort of exert pressure onto venue owners to take drink spiking more seriously. So a really good full year of the students using it, a lot of good feedback from them, and some of this leaked out into news around the town as well. So Reading Council, where are we? Yes, 2022. Reading Council got funding for a Safer Streets partnership, and have asked if we can make MyWay available to everybody in Reading now, which I'm very pleased about, because that really gets more users on it, and means we can start working with different groups of people. The police were also interested, because they were keen to get, when incidents get reported, they quite like to know about that. We have to make sure it's anonymized, because we're not giving them any information about the students, but they can know the location and they can know the time of an incident and what the incident was. So for things like drink spiking and other problems, they can use that as intelligence for their own operations. And then there was another group called Reading Street Pastors, who they patrol the streets of Reading at the weekends and help people out who are in distress. So they had shown some interest in it. But as you can see, there's a lot more stakeholders suddenly involved in the project, from sixth form colleges, secondary schools, and various charities. The council, First Stop is attached to the street pastors. So if somebody needs any medical assistance on a night out, there's a safe place where they can go for that. And the street pastors sort of usher them to and from there. So that has meant that I've spent a lot of time talking to 16 and 25-year-old students about their needs. And these are local students, so they know the area a bit better. I also wanted to involve other vulnerable groups. So I've been working with asylum seekers through the refugee support group to try and understand what issues they might face in terms of safety. Because unfortunately, in the past, well, since Brexit, really, the number of sort of hate crime or hate-related crime against asylum seekers has increased. So that was an area that I'm keen to address, and Reading has taken on quite a few asylum seekers. So a lot of people involved, and with that, of course, comes a lot of ideas as to what we could do with the app. You know what would be really great. So we've been looking at these, and obviously we can't do everything, and you wouldn't. I mean, some things you wouldn't want to do. So there was one suggestion that we should report homeless people, and I'm really not interested in making the lives of homeless people any harder than they already are. But there is one of the more encouraging things, I think, from the younger students. And I'm not sure if it's because they're younger or if it's because they live in Reading and have more of a community spirit, but they're really keen that they could help other people. So if they could see someone had passed out on the street or was in distress in some way, could they could they use the app to help? And so we spoke to them and we spoke to the street pastors, and the idea is going to be that if you see somebody vulnerable on the street now, you can report it and it will go through to the street pastors and direct them to that person. Now, one of the things I need to make sure is that we don't end up building a map of all the vulnerable people on the streets of Reading, because that could really be misused. But if we're just directing street pastors, so it's not on a public app at all, but the street pastors can go and help that person, then that means they get help that much quicker rather than relying on the sort of routine patrols that the street pastors do. So I really like that idea. Really like the police wanting the data. And there's some other great ideas as well around, can the students rate the venues for safety, which I think is a bit more complicated than it sounds, because you might have a different idea as to whether somewhere is safe for a disabled person or a gay person or a woman or a man. And I don't think the app should be the place where you start specifying your different identities. So I'm not sure that we can do anything with that at the moment. I think that's something worth exploring. And for the asylum seekers, one of the big barriers is language. So they don't all have English. They don't all have very good English. So being able to translate the app so it works in multiple languages would be really good. The downside from my perspective is that there are 150 languages spoken in Reading, and that would be an awful lot of translation. So I'm not sure quite how we can tackle it, but I think there's probably a handful of more commonly spoken languages that might work for people. So we'll have to watch this space on that. Going back to this then, so we're going to use the urban data exchange to send the data to the police, because that's all. There's no reason why it can't go through that way. For the street pastors, as I said, they're going to get locations of vulnerable people, so we're not sending that through any sort of open data platform. That'll be a private backend. So that's what we'll be working on now. And the idea is that goes live in the next couple of weeks. So we've nearly got it ready now. I was hoping I'd be able to show it today, but I can't show you the live version, I'm afraid. That's kind of it for a run through of the app. I think just to sort of wrap it up, it's been really encouraging listening to the council actively wanting to do something about personal safety. The engagement from the colleges and the university has been superb. Some of the charities involved around looking after people as well. So it is a lot of work to embrace that many stakeholders, and there's some competing needs amongst them, and we're not going to be able to satisfy everyone. But it does seem that we have got something that is giving value to the community. Certainly has been to students. We know that, and we know that they carry on using it. And so we're hoping that when we broaden it out to the public in the coming weeks, that we'll see that similar sort of stats follow through. So unfortunately, until a creepy guy sensor exists, we are still going to be relying on various ways of trying to keep people safer and make sure that everyone can have a good night out when they go out. I think that's it. I can answer any questions anyone has. If you want to talk about co-designing solutions, explaining IoT to people who've never heard of IoT, be more than happy to talk through that. Perhaps the thing to do would be to try and demonstrate the app while you think up some clever questions to ask me. What do you think, Kiki? Shall I do that?
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, thank you so much for the presentation. It's
Right.
actually mind-blowing. Like, I'm one of those that is like, I just wish that had existed when I was in uni. It's like a no-brainer, isn't it? Do you have people approaching you from other towns and cities wanting to roll it out?
Not so much in the UK. There was quite a bit of interest, from the Dutch. Well, so for everyone who doesn't know, Kiki and I met in September in Amsterdam for the Things conference when I was giving a talk around this. And off the back of that, there was quite a bit of interest. There has been from some of the universities, but I think it becomes a complicated project to deliver because you need permission from the council to use their streets for putting sensors up. And you need the university to buy into it as well. So what I think is going to work better is if this works well for everybody in the town, then we will just look to sell it to the towns.
Okay.
Because it's a much simpler sale that way. And everybody benefits from it. So, right, I'm going to hopefully. Yes, right. Okay, it's working. One thing has worked from the technology. So this is my phone here. You can see on the map itself, you can see there are little people with numbers next to them. So if I'm going to do it like this. If I zoom into the town centre, you can see there we've got 27 people 9 minutes ago. Up nearer the station, 7 people a few minutes ago. So it's giving an indication of how many people are roaming around. There is down the bottom are the kind of controls. Now the Take Me Home button, if I press that, is not going to impress any of you because I'm already at home. But the idea of it was particularly for freshers, so brand new to the town. They go out on Freshers Week, they get frankly hammered, they lose their shoes, and they've forgotten where they live. So the police have to sort of help an awful lot of them to get back to the university and find out where their halls were and who they were. The Take Me Home button, well, I will press it. So yeah, the Take Me Home button will just give, there you go, there's my journey from Shenstone Road to Shenstone Road. It will give them a route home, either walking or indeed there's a bus route. There's a bus route home. So I should have done this talk from somewhere else, shouldn't I? But there's directions as well. So let's see, where can I go? Let's see. Not sure if that's gonna. I think it's not working properly because it's going through my phone, but we'll see. Oh no, there we go. So you can see I've got directions, much like Google Maps works, but I can go by bus or I can walk. That was important to give people that option. One of the things we learned about women students was that they might go out in a group in a taxi, but when they come home, particularly if they come home on their own, then they don't have the money to afford a taxi. So they'll either walk or they'll be getting a bus. So that was a useful information for them. And then at the top, you can see it'll take me half an hour to walk, or 22 minutes if I get on the bus. So it gives them some useful information. And Oh, I didn't show you, but you can also add friends on this, so that on a particular route, you can say, if you've been out with Kelly and Tracy and you wanted them to know that you got home safely, you just add them as part of the route, so they get a message to say when you get home safely. Also on here, there's the university security button in the middle. So if you really are in trouble, you can call the security team and they will come to you. You can hide your location or show it. So this is just a way of still having some privacy and letting your friends see where you are when you want them to, and not when you don't want them to. And then if you see anything that you don't like in town, this is where the report button comes in. So you can see we added drink spiked as a single button. So that's just a one press thing, and it's recorded. One of the changes that we're going to be making in this next release is, at the moment you have to type in what you've seen going on. So if it's a fight or if it's a creepy guy or whatever. And if you don't feel safe doing that, you can press finish later down the bottom, and it'll drop a pin in the map so that people know something's going on, but you can put the details in later. One of the ideas that's come through is that we're going to have like a series of common things that people report. Now we've got some data, we know the sort of common problems people find. So they'll be, much like the drink spiked button, they'll be able to just press, it's a fight, it's a creepy guy, or whatever. And that just makes the whole process that much quicker to report, and obviously safer then. You can adjust what you see on the map. So you can decide whether you want to see, sorry, I've got fiddly fingers, whether you want to see people in the area, whether you want to see lighting. So as day becomes night, you will start to see street lamps appearing on the map, which indicate those streets that are the best lit streets. Because generally speaking, people want to walk home on the better lit streets that have got other people walking up and down them. So they're in they might not know everybody, but there's company around. But there is a good portion of women who would walk home on a pitch black street with nobody on it, and they'll just sort of scuttle down the side as invisible as possible. Absolutely nobody is interested in walking down the shady street where there's one guy on a street corner. No one is interested in that. And then down the bottom there, you can see the reports. So this is reported incidents. If you're on a night out, you probably are only interested in things that have happened in the last 15 minutes or the last half hour. So we filter down, this is part of this inform but don't terrify people. We're filtering down the number of incidents they see. So they only see stuff that's relevant to them on their journey home. You can also add your friends, much like you do on Snapchat. And you can see incidents that you've reported. I don't have any here, but you can see that. And then there's a feedback page for helping to improve MyWay. So we take the co-design bit really seriously, and we want feedback from people. We encourage it, and that is how we go around improving the app. Okay, is that all right? We had time for questions.
That's brilliant, thank you. Really cool with the time thing, because that's what I was thinking. I was like, oh god, this sounds like it's going to be overwhelming and terrifying if you see everything that's ever happened there.
Yeah,
really smart.
Yeah, that's it. That's the last thing we want. It should be enabling people to feel more confident, so they're better informed about what's going on out and around them.
So we've got a question from David. He's asking how many sensors are needed, and also a bit of a funny comment there. People would probably lose their phones first before their shoes, and that might be an issue.
So I was really worried about this. This thing of I was envisaging people on their phones, waving their phones around in the middle of the night, and we might be inadvertently making things worse. You know, they've got a nice shiny iPhone, they might become more of a target. When we did the research with students, we learned that they're doing that anyway. People are using their phones pretty much as a shield. So they will either be on the phone talking to someone, or they'll be pretending that they're on the phone talking to someone. But it is a way of sort of dealing with, you know, or everything around you, and just sort of putting some blinkers on and making sure you can get home. So the phones were already out. So we weren't, yeah, that was one of the things I thought was going to be a problem. And I didn't really like the idea of a phone app for that reason. But it turns out everyone's already got their phones out. Sorry, there was a question about how many sensors.
Yeah, how many sensors need to be installed? I guess that's to get that kind of full picture, maybe.
Yeah. So I mean, it depends. We've got well over 120 installed around. So we were going for one on each street at least, and then some of the streets are longer. So we look at where people walk around. You know, the sort of more, because we need to care about the price of doing this. We look at where are people mostly walking to and from, and making sure those areas are covered. Yeah, I think obviously the more you can put on, the better. But we've gone with them on every street, try and get them at intersections, so that you cover, you know, where people gather from more than one street. And yeah, so it's 100 and I can't remember the exact number, but we're over 120 around the town. That's great for the town centre. It's great for where the students live, but Reading's quite big. We haven't got any of the sort of domestic housing estates, or anything like any of the bigger housing estates, or anywhere outside of central Reading. And I would like to do that, because you know, a lot of trouble doesn't happen in the town centre. A lot of it can happen out in housing estates as well. So yeah, hopefully we'll get there with that eventually.
Thanks. We've got a question from Damien as well, asking, do you use any sensor data to generate a report of a potential incident, or is it purely only person-reported incidents that appear on the app?
It is person-reported incidents. We looked, and in fact, I think our original proposal, we wanted to use. There's some sensors around that will sort of count mobile phones, as a way of, as a sort of proxy for how many people are around. And we wanted to have that sort of sensor out and about, but there are some data privacy issues around that. One of the useful things that you can do with it is you can get the MAC address of the phone, so it acts as a sort of, you know, you could say with certainty that phone was in a particular place. You couldn't say necessarily the person attached to that phone was in a place, but you would potentially, over time, you could spot if there was a repeat offender, if that phone kept reappearing. But the data privacy concerns around that were too much for the council to consider at the time. That might be something that changed. I think there was a period when a couple of cities got fined through GDPR regulations in Europe for that kind of thing with mobile phone data. So we don't do anything like that. We don't have any personal data from any of the sensors, and all the incidents that are reported are the crowdsourced incidents.
Great, that makes sense. It is a shame. I suppose it would be a good way of doing it, but too much of a risk,
Yeah,
I suppose.
yeah, it is. And I think there is risks with it, and there's some ethical questions about it as well.
Yeah, definitely.
That it's a much bigger conversation than we could possibly enter. So,
And are people using, so I, because obviously I do work with footfall in towns, I was thinking by looking at that, do businesses maybe look at the footfall on the app and think, oh, actually, this is busy at this time, maybe I should open my kebab shop a bit later or something like that? Is the data used in other ways as well?
not yet. Not yet, but in this new world where everybody's being made made aware of it and having the opportunity to use it. I should say it's a free app as well, so there's no fees for anyone to use it. We are going to be promoting it in the towns, which we've not done so far, because it's all been for university. Everyone at the university knows about it. There's posters in the toilets of all the bars at the university where you can just download the app straight from the poster. So we're going to be doing that around the town, and I think that is what I would like, from this open data thing. I would like then some of the local businesses do use the data. I think that makes sense, and I think there's some valuable research that could be done by academics using it as well around how people move about.
Yeah, definitely, loads of opportunities there.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any more questions? I think we've still got a few minutes left. Gary?
Hi there. Hi, Mark. How's it going?
I'm good, thanks, Gary.
Yeah, been a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just thought I was just curious about the spiking reports on two counts, really. One is that obviously it's being used internally essentially by the students at the university rather than public, and I suspect the bars where spiking is being reported are not aware that these reports are going on. But I just wondered. So there's two aspects to this, really. One is there seems to be an opportunity here potentially for, if bars are getting constant reports of spiking through the app, I wonder whether there's an incentive for the bars to improve their essentially, spiking cleanliness or whatever that is, as a reaction to people marking it up as a place not to go.
Yeah, that's very much the plan for the heat map of the dodgier areas in town, is that it'll work two ways. One is we can put pressure on the venue owners to take it more seriously, but also if the students know that is a dodgy place to go, then you would expect the footfall to drop in that place. So there'll be a much more cash incentive, if you like, for them to take it seriously. Having said that, this year there have not been anything like the number of reported spiking incidents that there were last year, which is really good news. But it has got people like the police are wondering, and the university is wondering, was last year just a blip, or is it going to be something that repeats? And we don't know the answer, whether it's just something that fell out, this sudden, when the night economy returned and lockdown was released, did some section of the public go nuts for a little bit? Don't know the answer.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it, in terms of the engagement?
Yeah, it is. It is. The other thing we've got to be slightly cautious of as well is a disgruntled employee going drink spike, and trying to do that on the bar. So we need to filter what gets reported out to the police, and what we publish on the heat map. So I would be watching for people who get unusually frequently spiked, for example.
Yeah, it's almost like a trust model in terms of the users.
Yeah, that's right. But there's some things we can do to make sure that if there is someone who's disgruntled, that doesn't appear on the map.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I was very impressed with the app. Then I'm not seeing the app before, Mark, and it was yes, you've obviously spent a lot of time and effort on that.
Yeah, yeah, it was good. We got I hired a student called Will. He was just finishing his computer science degree at Reading University. So I hired him, and he developed a lot of it. Millie did all the visual design stuff with Tracy, and then Will and I sort of wrote it. Tracy did some of the back end stuff as well. So yeah, it was good. Worked very nicely. I'm glad you like it.
Yeah, and nice to see the collaboration as well, because unfortunately a lot of these are just developed in silos, and it's great to see that as well, and involving the students as well, which is great. Sort of helping helping them to help themselves.
I was really worried that we'd developed something that was either too ugly for them to use, or it would be full of my ideas of what safety is, and not give them anything of any value. So we really made sure that it was the students who decided sort of influenced heavily what the features were.
Thank you.
I think that collaboration is so important as well, because like you said, with flagging venues, you could even then flag your your badly lit streets, and then maybe the council could do something about that to improve those areas as well.
Yeah, that is a possibility. It was one of the who came up with that? I think that was the Reading College students were quite keen that you could report things like that on it. This is where it gets, you decide what should and shouldn't go into the app. There is an app already in Reading for reporting, vandalized litter bins and park benches and things like that. So I think that's the right place for it. And the safety app, I suppose if there's a safety element to it, it could be. But then you need someone at the council probably only wants one source of, or, one route in for complaints rather than multiple routes. I think if they had to check MyWay and they had to Reading app and they had to check the help desk, it becomes a bit harder. Yeah, I don't know the right answer for that.
I was thinking more in terms of because you'll have the data of where incidents happen. So if things are happening regularly on a poorly lit street, then maybe something could be done about that kind of thing.
Yeah, very much so. I think that would be very good. There, we're just putting in more sensors in some now known dodgy areas that the younger students in particular know about. And as part of the Safer Streets partnership, the council's also able to put in extra lighting around there. So it'll be interesting to see how much impact that has over the course of the year. Yeah, I think targeting where you can intervene with stuff like that is really useful.
Definitely. Thanks. Well, if no one has any other questions, yeah, we're right on time to finish. So thank you so much, Mark. That was so interesting, and really heartwarming to hear, such great stuff happening. And thank you everyone for joining. So this session will be available on YouTube in the next couple of days. And our next session will be with QR Box, who are a startup from Prill, with an online platform for local businesses and residents. So yeah, thank you very much.
All right. Thanks everyone.
Great. Thank you. Diolch yn fawr. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.